Okay, Mrs. Litak, I think we're going to get started. Well, again, I'm Mrs. Bethany Chikora Lewis, and Natalie Litak is here with you tonight. And we are just so happy to be here with you all. Thank you for spending your time with us on this beautiful evening with the sun shining and the warm temperatures. I think we're really ready and set for spring. This is the first time we ever had a scheduling meeting. And I think it's just because of the year, how it is, that we thought that you may have some questions, and there are a few things that are changing because of the year. So we wanted to take time to be able to discuss those items with you, and we decided to have this virtual meeting. This meeting, we have a lot of people on, and we're very happy about that. So at the end, we will have some general questions, nothing specific to your child, more broad questions about the whole process. So if you have a question, a general question, if you could just raise your hand in the virtual raise your hand, or you can use the chat feature. Sorry, I get notifications pop up sometimes in the chat feature, and we will be able to get those to you. And we also wanted to let you know that the meeting is being recorded. So that means your question may be on, or you may be on if you ask a question. So we just wanted to let you know, for privacy reasons, that the meeting is being recorded for those who couldn't attend. So I'm going to let Mrs. Litak go ahead and begin our presentation.
Thank you. And then Mr. Patrick Harrigan is so kindly helping us out this evening. So he'll be toggling through the slides for us. If you had the opportunity to watch our video that we put out for the students, a lot of the information that we're going to show tonight was in that video, but we really want to reiterate the scheduling process so that everybody is clear with it. And that if you do have any questions, like Mrs. Shakora Lewis said, please feel free to either raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get that for you. So again, the objective of this presentation this evening is just really for information. And since it is a little bit of a different year, and we have several of our students in person, and we have several of our students currently using our cyber platform with Edgenuity, we want to address how will we be scheduling both sets of students. The biggest thing to remember is that our program of studies will be your main guide. So if you haven't had an opportunity to jump on our website and go to the counseling page, make sure that you do that. The programs of studies is posted on there, and you would be able to look through it, and it just kind of helps you gauge what classes the student should take year to year. Okay, and just so everybody is aware, credit-wise, all students must schedule at least 7 credits per year. So seniors, they also need to schedule 7 credits. There are 2 exceptions to that. If a senior wants to participate in work release, which we'll discuss later, and then also if a student qualifies, if a senior qualifies for dual enrollment, which we'll discuss later, they do not have to carry the 7 credits. And just so everybody knows, a full credit, 1 credit, is a full year course. And then a half a credit is the semester courses that the students take. So first semester, second semester. Yeah. The requirements for graduation. So all of our students, in order to graduate and become eligible for a diploma, they must complete 25.25 credits. So that little 0.25 is for the online health. In order to accomplish that, like we already said, the 7 credits per year, in order for a student to go from 9th grade to 10th grade, they have to accumulate at least 6 credits. And from 10th to 11th, 12 credits, and then 11th to 12th, at least 18 credits. And then for a senior to participate in work release, they have to have at least 20 credits in order to do the work release and have enough credits for graduation.
And I just want to talk a little bit about the minimum requirements in each subject area. So it's broken down. They need 4 credits of English, so 4 English classes, 4 social studies credits as well. And it must include the civics class they take in 9th grade, the Western Civ in 10th grade, and the U.S. history in 11th grade. Then there's more flexibility their senior year. There's some semester history courses that they could take, there's AP courses, and there's even AP courses 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Students who will only need 3 social studies courses because the Steel Center, we have a cooperation with them that they can use released 1 social studies course. So that gives some flexibility to the students in their scheduling process. For math, they need 3 credits. It's algebra and a geometry course, and then a further course. Usually most of the students take an algebra 2 or the integrated math course. Science, 3 credits are required, and biology is one of those credits that must be taken. Health and PE, Mrs. Liptak talked about that online health, that 0.25 credit. It's really giving students an experience with an online course. A PE is 1 credit. We try and get students to take a PE their 9th grade and their sophomore year, because then again, for their scheduling purposes, the flexibility is nice their junior and senior year. Computer application and personal finance, that course should be taken in 9th grade. If not, that's okay. We'll work with your child to get that scheduled for 10th grade. College and career is a wonderful class. It really helps to develop post-secondary plans, colleges, financial aid, entering the workforce. It is a wonderful class, and it is usually taken the junior year, sometimes the sophomore year. And then the rest are made up from additional electives that they choose from. The credit classification we wanted to talk about, and I think Mrs. Liptak hit on it a little bit, is when we're scheduling, we have to think we need the 7 credits. So the core courses are usually the year-long 1 credit course. And then, of course, you have the semester courses, which are first or second, and they're half a credit. So we have to think about that when we're adding up those electives and those core courses. Course level. This is also very important to think about when we're scheduling, when we're doing the scheduling process. So your teachers, your child's teachers, and this is a little bit changed, and we're going to talk about this later as well, but they have provided us with recommendations for your child already. Usually the students would do the program of studies, write everything down, and take it to the teacher. This year, we have the information. So when we meet to schedule, we'll have that information of what course level that they were recommended for. But the course levels are general course it begins with, and that's more of a foundation course. There's remediation along with that course, not a lot of outside work, a lot of inside work, a lot of teacher-led discussion, teacher-led instruction, a lot of help. It's a good foundational course. This course, the general course, though, however, is not suitable for NCAA. So we do have to keep that in mind. If you're thinking about being a D1, D2 athlete at a college level, this course will not be approved by NCAA. Our next level is our college preparatory level or college prep, and that's where most of our students are taking. This prepare you for post-secondary plans, whether it's a 4-year school, a 2-year school, trade and technical. You're getting a great foundation in these courses. There's outside work, there's homework, but it's where most of our students are, and it's a great level to be. Next would be an honors course, again, more rigorous. Now, this is a little bit higher, a little bit more independent work. Summer readings are usually associated with it, and pace is faster in an honors course. The AP is our highest course. 9th grade, there's no offerings for AP, but moving forward from 10th grade on, there are several AP courses. Again, this is a college level course. They're taking this course to take the AP exam to receive college credit. So there's much laid upon them in this course. It's worth it, but there's much laid upon them. So when you're looking at the program of studies and when you're talking to your child and the teachers, we have to think about what's most appropriate. And then that goes to our next topic, the prerequisites. So for those, each level of course, really, except the general course, there's a prerequisite associated with them. So you have to think about that. And the reason the prerequisites are there is just for a safety barrier, because the teachers know what's needed to be successful in that course. So those prereqs are there just to make sure that the students are experiencing success in the right placement. So for example, say a student is in English 9 CP and they want to move to English 10 honors, they would need prereq there would be an 83 to move into from English 9 honors to English 10 honors, you would have to have an 83%. If they were in the English 9 CP, they had a 90%, they could move to English honors. So they would need those prerequisites. And you can find all of that information in the program of studies. Now, if your child does not meet the prerequisite for a class, the teacher hasn't recommended that class, well, we really advise that they don't do this, again, for the same reasons. We know what's needed to make a student successful in the class. But I know this is a different year, so we do have a waiver available for students. A waiver, there can be one waiver used per year. Now, the waiver cannot waive the class prerequisite. So, for example, if a student wanted to take honors physics, but they didn't have chemistry, they can't do that. They can't jump a whole class, but they could waive the grade prerequisite. So, say the grade prerequisite wasn't high enough, they could waive that. So, they can get it's on that scheduling form where all those forms are. You can find a waiver. Again, it's one per year. The downside is, though, if the student waives in and they're struggling and then they want to exit the class, there will be a 55 place on the transcript. So they'll have a failing grade and that'll be placed on the transcript. So please really do a lot of consideration before you're thinking about doing a waiver. And in a waiver, the child has to explain as well why they would like to waive into the class. Okay. Next, now Mrs. Litek's going to talk about scheduling information.
And before we jump into that, just in case somebody jumped on a little bit later and maybe missed the first few slides, this is being recorded. So we'll post it to our website. And then if you're anything like me, I love taking notes, but Mrs. Shakora Lewis, I know that we kind of sometimes talk a little bit fast just because we're really excited about what we talk about. So if we're going too fast and you maybe miss something, please know that this is all going to be posted to our website for you. So when we begin to schedule a student, we do, like Mrs. Shakora Lewis said, the teachers are making their recommendations, but we're also looking at students' grades, the recommendations, and the electives. So if a student is currently failing a course, so if they're failing, let's say, Algebra 1, when we go to have our meeting with them, we would schedule them into Algebra 1 the following year because that is a graduation requirement. Now they can recover that course in summer school. And if they do recover that course, then we'll just remove them from the Algebra 1 and then we'll place them into the appropriate math for that school year. If the student is or ends up failing 2 or more classes, they can regain up to 2 course credits through summer school. If a grade has to be repeated and if the student fails, that original failing grade is reported on the transcript. It does not, and so is the replaced grade. But the replaced grade does not update the GPA. So the failing grade is still the grade that is calculated into the student's GPA. The GPA would not change with the updated grade. And then just to state again, because we get a lot of questions about this, the student, if a student is a freshman, they need to earn 6 credits to be a sophomore. And then they need to have 12 credits to be a junior and then 18 credits to be a senior. Since Steel Center, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of slides from here, Steel Center is our technical program that we use for students. If a student wants to participate in Steel Center, it does start sophomore year. They have to have the 6 credits in order to apply and to enroll into Steel Center. And then if you are planning on doing Steel Center, the student will still need to choose electives. So we always get that question, you know, the Steel Center counts for 3 elective credits. So students will always say, well, I don't want to, or I don't need to choose electives. Different things happen. A student maybe doesn't want to do Steel Center once they enter the program. Maybe they don't get the program that they want and they no longer want to do it. So we always recommend students to fill out their electives. We'll put them in there. And then if they end up doing Steel Center, we'll just reverse it back out and put them into Steel Center.
Sorry, I made okay. So I'm going to talk now on just how the scheduling process is going to look. So it will look a little different for those who are in person, and then for students who are in Edgenuity. So the process kind of started already in terms of the students watched a video, a scheduling video that Mrs. Liptak and I did, and they watched it during homeroom. So then we were even able to go into the ninth grade history classes and talk to the ninth grade students as well. Now we need you and your students to work together and review the program of studies. They also have been given a course request sheet, and that course request sheet should look familiar because they use that in eighth grade and they've used that every year. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill out that course request sheet with what courses, the core courses that they would want. And again, when Mrs. Liptak and I meet with the student, we'll talk about what the teachers have recommended. And we'll talk about what their career goals are to make sure that they are working, they're taking classes that will prepare them in high school for what they want to do next. Then the back side of that course request form is going to be a really important part because that's when the students get to choose the electives. And that's very, very important that they do this and complete this part out. We're scheduling a little later this year, and we usually meet with the students twice a year, once to do the initial process of scheduling, and then after the master's run and the schedules come out, we try and meet with them to correct anything in the schedule. But this year we won't be able to do that. So it's very important that your child chooses electives that interest them. So we're asking everyone to rank order the electives. Number one would be the one they want the most. So Mrs. Liptak and I talked about to the students, and especially in the ninth grade classes. If you're taking a foreign language, that should be number one. If you're in the band, that should be number one or two, or chorus, or anything like that. Make that very high priority. You can give us more than 10. We would love it because unfortunately, you always don't get the electives that you're going to choose. It could be a class conflicts with an elective, like a core class, or it could be just the elective filled up with senior students. So filling out those core classes are important. Ms. Liptak and I will have those teacher recommendations, but the electives are very, very important as well. Now, we have to have a hard line this year because of the master schedule and the way things are, and our Edgenuity students coming in, coming back. We need to make sure that we get all the electives that we can really want to take because we're not going to be able to change schedule this year. Now, we say that sometimes and then we do, but this year we're not going to be able to do that. So we want to make sure that everybody is really writing down what they would like to have. And we're going to do our best to try and get you what you would like for electives. You'll get your core classes. It's the electives sometimes that we have some trouble with. Now we will change schedules based on summer school completion, getting into Steel Center, or within the process, you could be missing a lunch or a course or like a bell period. We'll definitely change for that. That's not a problem. So that's for our in-person. And then we will be meeting, and we'll talk about this in a later slide, but after the everything's filled out, you're looking, we're going to be starting scheduling meetings. It could be in-person meetings or we could do Google Meets. It's just very important that your child's using their student email, their school email, because that's how we're going to be communicating with them their appointment times. Okay, now for Ingenuity students, the same thing. You can watch the video. I know the video was sent out, and if it's not, that's okay. It's on our page. You can watch the scheduling video for ninth grade students or 10th, 11th, and 12th. Same thing, work with your parents. Do the request sheet is also in those forms. You can write it down. Then what's going to be different with our Ingenuity students is we have to schedule based on your current progress and actual grade. So in Edgenuity, if you're an Edgenuity student, you know you are graded on the actual work that you're doing, and then you're graded on the work plus the zeros are factored in for work you didn't do. So if your progress is behind, unfortunately, if it's very much so behind, we're going to have to reschedule you into those courses. Now, the junior, sophomore, freshman right now have until June 11th to complete their coursework. But in terms of scheduling, we can't guarantee that you're going to get it done. So if you're on track, we're okay. We can move you. But if you're way behind, and we do have some students way behind, we're not going to be able to move them forward in some of the classes. So keep that in mind. And don't worry if you're an Ingenuity. When you're a junior, we're scheduling juniors. We're scheduling our Ingenuity students as well. Sophomores, freshmen, same thing. So just because you're an Ingenuity does not mean you're going to be scheduling later in the process. You're on our list with all our juniors, and we're going to be sending you an email. So make sure you're checking your email. Same with the electives and not changing electives, but changing for summer school or still center, or if you're missing something. Okay. And all the scheduling forms, as we mentioned before, can be found under the scheduling tab. You just go to sparks.org, click on schools, South Park High School, select academics, select the scheduling tab, and you'll find everything that we've talked about. And then here's an example of that scheduling form that we talked about. So your core courses, I'm like pointing, you can't see, but I'm pointing at, but the core courses would be there. And then at the bottom, when we meet with your child, we'll talk about GPA, we'll talk about class rank if it's applicable at that time, we'll talk about their career choices, and then we'll take them to the electives and they'll provide their choices for us. Again, that big focus of 1 to 10, that's very, very important. So that's the process. It's similar to what the process has been, except the students aren't taking the sheet to each teacher. The sheet really just came to Miss Liptak and I. So now Mrs. Liptak is going to get to talk about Still Center. Now we do have a mix of beautiful people here, different grades. So we do want to include, like, talk about Still Center. We want to talk about dual enrollment work release. So Miss Liptak is going to talk about Still Center right
Thank you. The next couple of slides will cover Steel Center. If you could, when you watch the video with your student, if you haven't done this already, that link right there, there's a link where it says Steel Center, a pathway to success. If you click on that, it will bring up a video and it just really goes into a great description of Steel Center. So Steel Center is the program that we use for students who are maybe interested in a trade or a technical program. And this allows them to work through that program and potentially get a certification at the end of graduation. Just really help them align with their post-secondary needs. Students who attend our Steel Center program, they do attend it on a daily basis, and they are with us in the morning for their core courses, and then they get released after C period. It's actually right at the end of C period lunch, so they're not there for the full C period lunch, but right at the end, which is right around noon. And so transportation is provided from South Park to Steel Center, and then from Steel Center to your home if transportation is needed for the student. And then, like we stated before, Steel Center would account for 3 electives for the students. So each year that they take it, it is equivalent to 3 elective credits. But again, we just ask students to still fill out their elective in case something happens. On this next slide, if you maybe had an older sibling or an older student attend Steel Center in the past, Steel Center has changed the way they have students apply this year. So everything has gone online, and it is actually a very seamless process. So there are, and you can see right there, about 5 different spots on the Steel Center website, and the Steel Center website's listed right there, where students can click on for an application. Once the student clicks on the application, they'll just put all of their demographic information in there, and then they'll also have to choose which program they're interested in. It is highly recommended that they put more than just their top program. So they really want to put, I want to say, at least 3 programs in there that they would be interested in and willing to participate in. just in case they do not get their top one. And then on the next slide, once the student submits their application, it comes to a nice little portal for Mrs. Jacora Lewis and I, and we click on the portal, and there's like a little section for us to go ahead and fill out. And there's also just additional information that they need from us. So they are going to ask for the students' attendance, and they'll ask for any test scores that we might have. So the PSSAs, any of the keystones, and then they will ask if a student has a 504 or an IEP plan. They also ask for that information as well. Okay, the next 3 slides we're going to go ahead and cover just early release. We talked a little bit about early release in the first couple of slides and how seniors have the opportunity to be released from school early. So you can just see here that they get this opportunity, and it's for 2 reasons. So they can be released for employment or for dual enrollment. And so we want to also make sure that the students have just adequate progress to graduation. So in order to do the work release, and Mr. Jacora Lewis will talk a little bit more further about that, and even the dual enrollment, they do need 20 credits up until their junior year. And they also have to be passing all of their classes for graduation and have received a proficient in their Keystone exams. We also check just disciplinary record and make sure that there has been no suspensions in order for them to participate into that program.
These plans are really nice options for students. The work release is one that a lot of students use. They have to be employed at least 15 hours a week. They'll take their 5 credits at the beginning of the day, and then they usually leave after AB. They can have lunch at school, or that they can leave to go ahead to work. There's paperwork that needs to be filled out. That can happen at very late summer or at the beginning of the year. Because we try and do it at the beginning of the year, late summer, just to make sure that students still have that job, maintaining that job, so that they can have that and can guarantee that they'll have 15 or more hours a week to work. We'll also keep a copy of their work schedule in the office, and a copy of the pay stubs on a monthly basis, just to make sure that they're still engaged in the working process. But a lot of students are taking advantage of this opportunity. Another wonderful opportunity is the dual enrollment. We partner with CCAC, and students are able to take classes. They can take them at school, they could take them at campus. We work around their schedules as much as possible to help them be able to do this process. One factor that's really important with dual enrollment is that these classes do not replace their core subject classes. Like a dual enrollment English course could not replace our English course. They replace electives that students would take. And these dual enrollment courses do not reflect on our transcript. CCAC will provide a transcript for the students, so they can take that then to the colleges that they're applying to. And when they're applying at CCAC for the dual enrollment, what's really nice is they work with a transfer counselor as well to make sure that the courses they're taking for dual enrollment will go to whatever school that they transfer, to any school that they are thinking about attending. Usually they're taking a couple of classes each semester.
So we just threw a lot of information out at you. You could take if you could take everything away, that would be great. But one thing, we are asking that the students have their form completed by Wednesday, April 7th. So because we are starting a little bit later in the process, we'll still be meeting with the students, but when we send them the email in regards to their meeting date and time, we want them just to be able to have that sheet available to be able to meet with us, and we can just go over the sheet with them and have everything complete. So if they could have those course request sheets done by Wednesday, April 7th, it doesn't have to be turned into us, just have it done by April 7th. And then when Mrs. Jacora Lewis and I meet with them, so we'll send them an email to their student email in regards to their date and time of when we'll be meeting with them. And then we'll sit down and we'll meet with them, and it's either going to be Zoom or in person. And we'll just review the course request and then also the course recommendations by the teacher, how many credits they've earned so far for to date, and then just maybe any post-secondary plans that they might have, or just to kind of get them to start to think about post-secondary. That's at that time we'll discuss it with them.
So I guess now we're opening it up for questions, general questions about the scheduling process. Mr. Harrington, do we have any questions?
I don't have any just yet, but I do have someone who just raised their hand. Let's start with Crystal Fleming. You can unmute.
Hello, I just raised my hand. I'm Elian's mom. Ms. Shakura Lewis, I wanted to know regarding the dual enrollment, which semester can they do that, please? I mean, which year can they do that?
That's a great question. They can start that at the end of their junior year. So they can start like the summer, but preceding their senior year. And then they can do two fall classes and two spring classes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Good evening.
All right.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Once the student has met with the counselor and the form has been filled out and the classes were selected, will the parents have an opportunity to review the final form before it's submitted for processing?
Yeah, yes, they will, because when we are meeting with the student, they will have the form as well. We will have a form and they will have the form, but we'll be meeting together. So you can review that with your child. It won't be signed off per se as it was in the past, but you will have that from our conversation. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email myself or Mrs. Liptak, and we're more than happy to go over the form with you or any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Braden raised a hand.
Hi, this is Kristen, Braden's mom.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, I was just wondering about Steel Center. Is there a deadline for the application, or can we do it anytime before the April scheduling forms are due?
So there is a deadline, and it is approaching. So I would do that as soon as possible. They set a deadline. There are some of the groupings that fill up rather quickly, and so that's why the deadline's there. If he would apply after the deadline and there was a spot available, they would not turn him away, even though it was after the deadline. But I would say if he could get that in this week would be great.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have a question from the chat asking if the Cyber Academy students should drop off a copy of their course request sheet prior to their meeting with you.
No.
Go ahead.
Do you want to?
Liptak.
I was
Go
just going to, no, they, if they could just have it completed. So it will be on our website. And if you could just have that completed, and then we'll meet with them virtually, either through Google Meets or through Zoom, and we'll go over that form with them. And then they keep their form, and we'll have a form at the office that we'll just fill out when we're speaking to them.
All right, I think that's everything from the chat. I don't see any other raised hands. If anyone who had dialed into the meeting unable to chat, you can unmute your phone to ask a question. But I do not see anything else at this moment.
Well, if you have any individual questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, to email myself or Ms. Liptak, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you and answer any questions.
There just was one question here in the chat. I know many colleges require 2 years of a language. How do the students meet that requirement if they attend Steel Center?
Mhm.
Oh, that's a great question. We work around their schedules to do that. We can actually let them take a foreign language. We've done that, and then it's still center. They could take an online course, a history course. We try and work within their schedules to try and fit that in. And I did want to mention with a foreign language, schools, it's a recommendation that they have 2 to 3 years. It does not prohibit, if a student does not have that, it does not prohibit a student from getting accepted into college. They'll probably have to take a freshman language, like in their freshman year, but I've never had a student not been able to go to attend a 4-year college due to that. Have you, Mrs. Liptak?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, but we can work around that schedule to try and get the foreign language in. That's a great question.
All right, that's all I have for right now.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you so much again for being with us and listening to our presentation. I hope we clarified some things for you, and just enjoy this rest of this lovely evening.
Thank you.